Hackers of Reddit, what are some cool / scary things about our technology that aren't necessarily public knowledge? Almost all industry computers, think controllers for huge factories, power plants, water reclamation, distance heating, etc., have well-known default passwords or even hard-coded admin accounts. Back in the day, this was not a huge problem because you would run them on private networks with no connection to the internet. Nowadays, the internet is available everywhere and much cheaper than private networks, so many of these industry computers are now reachable from the internet. People that know what they are doing would only make them accessible over a VPN, but there is a very large number of people that shouldn't be allowed anywhere near a keyboard. Router using web is insecure. Source: using neighbor's Wi-Fi. Professional hacker, penetration tester. Here, I would say the scariest thing I run into on a daily basis is how shoddy in the security sense most of the code out there is. I deal mainly with web applications, and it's amazing some of the things the developers come up with. It might be super fast and functional, but horrible security wise. The number of big development firms that have no security cycle or CAC cooked into their dev cycle is astonishing. The second is just how little understanding in the general public there is about how tech actually works, what it's doing. Everyone uses it for everything, yet there are people out there that are in charge of commerce apps that take your financial data that don't know what a web browser is. I actually think the general population is getting more tech illiterate. As devices have become more user-friendly, the level of knowledge required to use them has gone down dramatically. So what we have now is the equivalent of a bunch of toddlers running around with bazookas and not knowing what makes them go boom. Most hacked account, be it Facebook, mail or other, aren't done by elite nerd typing quickly on a console, but by malicious people who have basic knowledge of computer and exploit other people's stupidity, or by gathering some information. Example: lost password, secret question, what's your favorite food? Most of the time it's pizza. Physical storage doesn't last for as long as people think. CDs and DVDs have a finite lifespan. If you have photos backed up on a disk in the attic from the 90s, they could potentially fail if you ever wanted what was on them. Same thing with USB flash drives and HDDs a decade or two before they fail. This isn't a problem right now, but imagine a world where everything is stored digitally as opposed to hard copy, which also has a finite lifespan. Your grandkids won't have any of your pictures or files because they will all be gone. Sure, you could do online backups, but even then, how long will that service be around? How many times has a company gone out of business taking its media with them? The scary part of the computer security world is not China, Russia or any other type of advanced persistent threat. Not anonymous or some disparate group of computer hackers. The number one threat to computer security is people. Social engineering is still the best way to get into almost any system. It cannot be patched. The amount of people who will still run Excel report not a virus.exe is mind-boggling. Most intrusions are done through malicious emails or malware preloaded onto a USB stick that someone drops somewhere. You can have the strongest IT system in the world. You can spend billions on software and hardware protection. But if I can ring the new employee called Kathy and say, "Hey, Kathy, you're new here, right? Yeah, it's John from IT Security. There's been a breach and I need sysadmin password quickly so I can patch it up." "Okay," says Kathy, under stress to fix the problem, and there I have it. I got the password. It's called social engineering, and 9 times out of 10 that's how people hack accounts. I worked at a hospital corporate office, and right after 3 weeks of training I get to go to my actual department for my first real day, confident I know all the computer systems now. Day 2, I get called to the security office because apparently someone using my login and password accessed to systems in the training center after I clocked out. So, I changed all my passwords and entered my passwords on the effing shared drive because that's the stupid effing rule, and went to work. Days 3 and 4 were a repeat of day 2. Day 5 they decided to install secret cameras and caught an IT employee sneaking into the training center after accessing my new passwords on the shared drive daily, trying to figure out how to edit an account of a family member to change it to stop a lawsuit. I was chosen because I was new and the only new person with editing power over all systems. We were required to keep our passwords in an unprotected Excel document that only it and management and of course myself would only ever go into if necessary. After that, I kept it updated with fake passwords. We were required to keep our passwords in an unprotected Excel document. That's not even social engineering. That's just people being completely incompetent. Those browser warnings about untrusted SSL certificates that everyone automatically bypasses could be an indicator that you're a victim of a man-in-the-middle attack. In other words, your data is being routed through an attacker's system, possibly through an ARP or DNS spoofing attack. By bypassing the warning messages, you have, possibly, just agreed to trust an attacker-supplied, self-signed SSL certificate. This isn't the case 100% of the time, but definition a reason to pause and scrutinize the warning. Nearly every single Comcast router I've ever tested is vulnerable to a WPS, Wi-Fi protected setup, authorization bypass vulnerability. Disable WPS to protect yourself against it. Any asshole can join your WPA2 protected Wi-Fi network in 10 hours or less with zero knowledge of your passphrase. Many office buildings have secure areas that require an ID badge for ingress access. However, when exiting said secure area, a proximity sensor detects the presence of a person on the secure side and unlocks the door without requiring an ID badge. It's possible to abuse the behavior of the proximity sensor on the secure side of the door using a can of compressed air, effectively bypassing the need to have a valid ID badge. Hold the can of compressed air upside down. Place nozzle between door cracks. Aim toward the ceiling. Toward the location of the proximity sensor on opposite side of the door. Pull trigger to spray. If the proximity sensor is improperly configured, the door will open, as though a person was on the opposite side exiting the secure area. Appliances or devices, ovens, fridges, thermostats, door locks, what the hell, that are network accessible when they normally are not is a problem that is getting worse. The protocols they use to communicate usually have little to no security in mind. The communication API will probably have really powerful functions available in the open and clear. Example, if I have to upgrade the software of my fridge and there is a command used in there to turn off the power, can I just send that command to any fridge of that brand and have it shut off? Giving up security for convenience is always a hard trade for people like me. Sure, being able to set my thermostat from my phone is neat, but do I have to have it talk through a third party, the company that makes it? No way and no thanks. Stop buying dumb devices that can remotely be accessed, unless you are very sure it won't burn down your house or cost you tons of money in case of an exploit. I've been doing computer security for 10 years and it for 20. About 40% of the IT infrastructure attached to the internet is unmanaged. Meaning that either nobody is taking care of it, or whoever is supposed to doesn't actually understand how. Professional security assessment engineer here, and the scariest things that keep me up at night fall into two categories. The amount of security theater perpetrated upon the general public without any backlash towards those that are using it to gain power over the people. There have been several instances like the Patriot Act, and pretty much all of the security at the airport after 9/11 where professionals have proclaimed how shitty these policies are and no one believes them. Side note, if you want to see real security, try flying in or out of Ben Gurion Airport in Israel. There are guards outside with rifles and will not hesitate to shoot. Then the security guards at the counter have been trained to ask questions about your stay, where you'll be staying, etc. They will then verify your answers with the hotel or friends you're staying with. I have been part of assessments where we were asked to compromise a network or device. We performed the assessment and found several significant findings that would allow an attacker to have complete access to the network or device. An example that comes to mind, we were asked to compromise a very popular phone at the time. We spent several months reviewing every facet of how it started up, common applications running on the phone, the operating system, etc. We found several flaws that allowed us to gain complete access to the phone and do whatever we wanted. Those findings didn't become public for almost 18 months. Now who's to say that those flaws weren't used by our government to spy on foreign targets? These are just the targets that we've been paid to assess. There are many exploits known as zero-day exploits that haven't seen the light of day. I'm on a couple of forums that discuss and trade these exploits like baseball cards. The general public has no idea how these things work and just see the heartbleed problem and wonder, should I change my password?